on you to go back to Washington and demand immediate oversight into DOGE and Elon Musk.
Republican lawmakers feeling the heat from their constituents, being asked directly, quote, "Can we count on you when it comes to the deeply unpopular slashing and burning that chainsaw-wielding Elon Musk and his so-called efficiency people are doing to the federal government?" Over in rural Kansas, a Republican senator was faced with such strong opposition that he abruptly ended his town hall early.
What the government is doing right now as far as cutting out those jobs, a huge percentage of those people, and I know you care about the veterans, are veterans.
Yes.
And that is a damn shame.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a damn shame.
I'm not a Democrat, but I'm worried about the veterans, man.
I'm not going to, we don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
Oh, wait.
We're going to take pictures with you, buddy, right?
Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. We've got Kris Goldsmith back. He runs Task Force Butler, which identifies, tracks, and holds accountable extremists and extremist organizations around the country. Kris, you got some late breaking and great breaking news for us. Tell us about the temporary restraining order.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, I, with a bunch of other veterans and some unions that represent both teachers and federal workers, we filed suit against the federal government to get the doggy boys and Elon Musk out of our private data. The basis of our claims was this is a massive violation of the Privacy Act, and the judge in the federal court in Maryland agreed with us and issued a temporary restraining order. And that temporary restraining order gets the doggy guys and Elon Musk out of the Department of Education. So if you've ever taken out a federal loan, ever, they have, the doggy guys and Musk have had access to things like your bank accounts, your work history, your payment history, your social security number, your address, all of this sensitive data. They have now been kicked out and no longer have access to those systems. They've also been kicked out of OPM. So if you've ever served in the military, if you've ever even so much as applied for a job in the federal government, not just employed by the federal government, but applied for a job, they have had access to things like your social security number, your background checks. If I had a secret security clearance, right? That all of that data, which goes far further than just my basic information, it's my people who had to vouch for me. So in my personal and professional life, right? Those people had to be interviewed. So those doggy guys and Musk have had access to that up until this federal judge just issued this temporary restraining order. So this is a huge victory for every American's privacy.
Refresh our memory on who the doggy boys are and their age range. I know we've talked about it before, and our last conversation got over 300,000 views. Great, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't see it. We're not talking about like seasoned investigators here, right? With security clearance and deep vetting to make sure they can be trusted with our personal information.
Yeah, so Musk and the Trump administration have been trying to convince everybody that they're going to let a bunch of 19 to 25-year-olds look at every American's private data so that they can find fraud, waste, and abuse. That's the phrase that they keep using, right? That is a noble cause to go after fraud, waste, and abuse when it comes to government spending, because ultimately that's taxpayer dollars and that's energy and effort of the taxpayers of a government by and for American citizens that would be wasted, right? But instead of hiring forensic accountants and investigators, they're hiring people out of Musk's private companies who were recruited out of hacking collectives, many who are involved with criminal enterprises, with neo-Nazi gangs that do things like break into underage girls' phones and gather compromising images of them, and then they use those compromising images to to encourage them into things like self-harm, carving their screen names into their skin, right? We're talking about the most disturbing, disgusting criminals on the planet are 1 degree away from Elon Musk. And those people are now being invited into government. So these are not government employees who passed background checks. These are not people who the FBI investigated and determined were trustworthy. These are just hackers that Elon Musk recruited out of the worst places of the internet.
One of the keys to a successful appeal to a judge to issue a TRO is the prospect of imminent harm. Can you tie what you just described to the realistic prospect of imminent harm to people like you and me and anyone, in fact, whose data is likely compromised?
Yeah, so every American who's ever taken out a federal loan to go to school, anyone who's ever worked for the government or even so much as applied for the government, there is enough data in those databases that these doggy guys and Musk have had access to do things like open up bank accounts in our name, take out loans in our name. So that's what every single American who's got their data in those systems are vulnerable to if these guys let our stuff out into the wild, or, frankly, just hang out with their criminal friends that they grew up with in these disgusting online environments. But for people like you and me, who have been putting our names and faces out there in opposition to the Musk-Trump regime, we have every reason to believe that we will be personally targeted. I am someone who professionally, as you said in the intro, I am a Nazi hunter. My organization, Task Force Butler Institute and Veterans Fighting Fascism, we are in the business of bringing legal consequences against criminal fascist gangs, whether it's the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, or Patriot Front, or NSC 131, or the Aryan Freedom Network. We're talking about people who are in gangs that have members who go to jail for things like murder, who go to jail for things like terrorism. These are not, little online cliques. These are fascist street gangs who try to murder people, who have engaged in plots to knock out the power grid, who have, stalked and harassed journalists, showed up at their houses and threatened their children. This has happened. This type of thing has already happened to me. I have had neo-Nazis show up at my mother's house to hand deliver a death threat. I have had neo-Nazis calling my local police station to call in a fake murder-suicide threat, hoping to get the police station to kick down my door and murder me in the middle of the night. This is what has already happened to me. So I have no reason not to believe that guys who are associated with white supremacists who've been hired by Elon Musk, who have access to my data, that they wouldn't act in retribution and simply give out my home address, give out all of my sensitive information, not just so that they can attempt to potentially murder me through something like a swatting attack or have neo-Nazis show up at my house, but to do things like engage in financial harassment, to put my sensitive information out online so that anyone can engage in harassment against me, can try and take out things like bank loans. These people are not above this. This is the community that Musk recruited them out of, these criminal enterprises online. So I think that every American, while not every American has the things to worry about that you and I do, as people who are so loud in our opposition to the Musk-Trump regime, but every American should be afraid of things like identity theft. That is really, really common. And, I don't want to leave people feeling hopeless. Again, I want to remind people the reason we're doing this episode is because the judge agreed with us and kicked people out. It's important to keep fighting, and it's important for individuals to keep protecting themselves. Taking proactive actions to protect your identity online is critical. In my most recent Substack, On Offense with Kris Goldsmith, I give people instructions on how they can take steps to protect their identity online. Not affiliated with this company, but I recommend people go to Canary. That's Canary with a K, KANARY.com. You can sign up and you can have your information taken down from these online databases where these data brokers sell them. That will help, as a first line of prevention for things like identity theft for every American.
Hey, it's Ken. Quick break to let you know we've got a Substack page for the Ken Harbaugh Show. If you want to make sure you never miss an episode, check it out. A lot of you already have. Thank you so much. And if you're able to, please subscribe. Every dollar goes back into the show to help with research, production, and reporting from places like Ukraine. None of this happens without your support. Thank you. Welcome to the resistance. Kudos to the judge for issuing this TRO, but the operative word in a temporary restraining order is temporary. What do you see as the end game here, given how, not just how aggressive the Trump administration is in pursuing its legal strategy, but the possibility that they might just ignore court orders?
Yeah, I think that's something that, our community of people who've been on offense for democracy have been considering for a long time, is that we do believe that the Trump administration has signaled that they are prepared to violate court orders. My hope is that if there is evidence that the Trump administration and Musk are deliberately or through negligence disobeying court orders, that the court is swift in imposing sanctions. And while they may not be able to sanction the president or Elon Musk in an effective way, the doggy boys, these 19 to 25-year-olds, if they end up having a warrant issued for their arrest because they're still accessing these sensitive systems, I think that at that level, that'll make them start to reconsider their actions and whether or not, they want to go down as the ultimate trolls who ultimately ended up in jail, or if they want to have their, life remain intact by remaining as law-abiding citizens. Now, there is, I think, a very real risk of Donald Trump just issuing blanket pardons. But if we reach a phase where Donald Trump is instructing people to break the law and then giving them pardons, while the Republican Party has been greatly compromised, there are going to be a few senators in the middle who start to waver. There are at least a small handful who will start to feel very uncomfortable with the idea of an absolute monarchy in the form of Elon Musk ruling our country.
Well, and we're beginning to see some signs of disenchantment at the grassroots. You're seeing the kinds of town hall meetings that we didn't experience, that we haven't experienced since 2010, like real anger in deep red districts towards representatives who aren't representing. They're just bending the knee to Trump. So hopefully that picks up steam. Kris, where can people find you? We're definitely going to put the link to your Substack, but how else can people learn about Task Force Butler, Veterans Fighting Fascism, and your other work?
Yeah, so if people want to support us, they can go to taskforcebutler.org, veteransfightingfascism.org. We have partnered with Common Defense, a much larger veterans organization that has activists all around the country. Also, if people want to know what they can do now and they want to, join Task Force Butler, Veterans Fighting Fascism, I need to set expectations and limit expectations. We are a tiny organization. Not everybody can be a Nazi hunter. That's why we're directing people to join Common Defense, a much larger grassroots veterans organization. And if you want to actually take moves that doesn't require a bigger organization telling you what to do, go to veteransfightingfascism.org and look for our anti-fascist book club. This is not just about learning. It's not just about reading. We are giving people instructions on how to organize locally so that they don't have to depend on some mothership, someone like me telling them what to do. We're giving you the instructions to fight fascism in your backyard. Through the knowledge gained in these books, you will learn what it looks like, not just to resist, but to go on offense. And you will learn what it takes to develop leadership at the most micro, local, level, which is where you fight fascism when it comes for, the books that your children are reading in the school or in the library, where your town, is agreeing whether or not they're going to collaborate with ICE in fascist raids in your neighborhood, right? So I don't want anybody to ever feel like there's nothing they can do. Not everybody's going to sue the federal government, but you can, in your own backyard, control things like who gets to sit on your school board, who is going to be, able to reach into your library and take books away from the hands of your children. That is where people need to start. You fight fascism in your backyard before you can fight it in the White House.
Love it, Kris. Links are in the show notes. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, brother.